pick between. And that's true. You can pick the metrics apart, or you can pick the eye test, whatever you want to pick. They're close teams. So I'm not disappointed, and I know in Phoenix that we'll have an unbelievable following. Would have been nice to go to Atlanta, no question, because we haven't been there. But I'm excited about Fiesta Bowl.
Gene, when you think about just the logistics of this, there was a time, we know things have changed, but in 2006 you guys had 51 days before you played the national championship game. Now it's only 21 days. It's 3 weeks. What do you think of this schedule, this timing? Is it enough of a break for the players? And with signing in the middle of here, just the way the logistics of this season are working?
You know, I think for the players, I think it's going to be fine. I think what Ryan and Mickey Marotti and the staff put together as a schedule really is a good break for them. You know, we still got academics as a high priority right now because we're in finals, but I think they've given them enough off time for their bodies and more psychologically to recover, because fortunately it's weird, knock on wood, kind of healthy, really. So I think the schedule's fine. The coaches is a real challenge. I mean, I feel for them because literally they're gone now. I mean, we just won the championship how many hours ago, and these guys leave their families and they're gone, trying to make up for last week, because we weren't on the road last week when everybody else was, which is good. I'm glad we weren't on the road. But at the same time, you know, these guys got to roll now and all the way through the next weekend. So I think it's harder on the coaches than it is the kids.
Gene, you were on the committee. I mean, is there an SEC bias? Are we looking at this the wrong way? But it was literally like going into yesterday, Ohio State was playing the number 8 team in the country, going to CFP the week before. Georgia was number 4. It was almost like set up to be what it turned out to be. And
I don't think they set it up.
I mean, you were in the rooms there.
Yeah, I don't think they set it. That doesn't happen.
I didn't mean intentionally.
Yeah,
but.
yeah, no, it's just you know, the issue is that you got 2 teams that are very close. You know, we could make the argument, which I think is a good argument. You know, we played 3 top 15 teams and back to back and won a championship. And but then you look at LSU and their metrics on the stats and the performance that they have. Their defense has improved. I can't remember what their defensive efficiency is now, but they improved. And so, you know, so the reality is, it's a tough call. I don't know if there's an SEC bias in the room. I never witnessed that. I just think that different people had different opinions, and everyone in that room has different criteria by which they make their decisions. And so I'm sure there was a lot of debate, and who knows what the vote was.
Yes.
Could have been 7-6.
Yeah. Schools, by the way, have been moving here recently. You know, Penn State, Indiana, to lock up their coaches.
Yeah.
For a while. Right. How impressed are you with what Ryan has done to this point, and will that be a major focus at the end of this season?
Yeah, Ryan's done a hell of a job. He's, I mean, you guys know that. I'm preaching to the choir. You guys can just, you know, it's kind of one of those things that's a moot question. So our biggest concern right now is getting our guys healthy and getting the coaches back home after being on the road and signing who we got to sign in December, and then how many ever we got coming in January, making sure they transition in.
Gene, you were in obviously the committee room, as you mentioned, and they talk all year about how it's body of work, body of work, all year, the whole thing, right? How much can a room be swayed from your experience by the results of a single half or a single game?
No
and
question.
Can the entire thinking of a room shift?
Sure.
And then how does that stay in line with the whole concept of body of work for the whole year?
No question. All right. So that's a great question. This is probably what happened this weekend. Keep in mind, the committee is in there all weekend watching every game, every single game. There's 4 TVs, and they're sitting in the room, and they're all watching games. And you know, Joe is watching his team. He's probably over in the other room because he's so nervous, trying to get away from people. But that's literally what's happening. You're watching games. So you can't dismiss that. You can't say that's not a factor. They're human, just like I was human. So you look at games and you develop an opinion of LSU versus Georgia and what they did. And you develop an opinion of Ohio State versus Wisconsin and what we did and how we did it. So individually you make a decision. So the body of work is still there. And when you go into the room and you discuss, you still have that body of work, and you discuss that, you have those metrics, but you still have the impression of what you just saw. I think is the answer to your question is still there. So how that individually plays, I don't know, but because every person has a different view of that. So yeah, it's a factor.
Hey, Gene, it's been a little over a year since you've hired Ryan to be head coach. Has anything about him or his first season surprised you?
I told him, I'm drawing a blank. Team Up North game. I told him after that game, I hugged him on the field. I said, "Damn, you aggressive, brother." And you know, I forgot where it was. We were running the rock. I mean, we were like, I was watching our boys up front. I mean, what an offensive line we have. Those when they put it together and they figure it out, they're knocking people out. And so that game, they were starting to knock them out. And I'm like, just give the boy the rock, you know, and he's like throwing 40-yard passes. I mean, and so I knew he had that, but we saw it on full display. You know, we saw it on full display at the championship game. How many of you thought that he was going to throw a fake punt? Remember to the onside kick? Now, he had told me that, showed me that on film, that we got a shot. I just didn't think he was going to do it. And particularly at the time he did it, I mean, I love the fact that he's aggressive. That's something that I learned. I thought he had, but I didn't know it, right? We saw it on full display this season. He's an aggressive guy. I love that.
Gene,
Take the risk. Take the risk.
We asked a lot of the players about this. The 2016 game when you guys lost to Clemson, 31-0.
Painful.
Did that feel like you guys were such a good program, you're only 2 years removed from the national title,
Right.
but did that feel like a moment to you of like, we're really good, but this showed us how we need to get better? Was it a reset? And then Ryan comes in a week later. Was that a reset for this program at all in any way?
I think that game, I think a number of bowl games showed us that we needed to elevate our game in recruiting. And you know, the Florida loss, the LSU loss, and the Clemson loss, we needed to change our perspective and look at different positions differently. You know, so we've done that. I mean, this team has that. Urban contributed to that shift because he and I candidly talked about that, and Ryan has done that as well. If things go well for December 18th, he continues that. But then you know, the development of that. I mean, Sean Wade. Wow. I mean, wow. I mean, anywhere else he'd be the starting corner. And so you just we can go around the room, right? Just pick them. But yeah, that's we've changed a lot since that time.
Gene, did you enjoy being able to advocate for Ohio State this year instead of having to stay objective being on the committee?
The hardest thing for me was not calling my colleagues on the committee. I wanted to yesterday so bad, and just text them. But you know, I knew it wouldn't mean nothing because they all hide their phones. But yeah, it's a relief. I don't have to worry about what I say in that regard, and but I'm conscious of what they go through. That's the thing. The benefit that I have is, you know, I know how hard it is. I mean, people, those of you who may have gone through the mock can appreciate how hard it is. It's not easy, and we try and make it look easy, but it's not easy, and it's a huge responsibility. So, but to your point, Dan, yeah, I love the fact that I can just say that we should have been number one. I wish we were number one, but I get it.
Gene, I know that this might seem like a weird question, so forgive me, but when you start talking about like the players that are on this team and the depth of talent that you just alluded to, there was a shift in the way that Ohio State ran its football program when Urban Meyer took over.
That's right.
7 years ago. I'm wondering, on a day like today when you're facing a team like Clemson or days in previous past when you're facing teams that are this talented, how has that shifted your mentality of how aggressive and how much money can be spent in the recruiting game, and how has this program evolved even in the playoff era in terms of just what you guys are willing to do and what extent you're willing to do to recruit at a highest level possible?
You know, no question. You know, it's interesting because when you look at when you mention the dollars, the dollars spent is based upon location, geography. We're blessed to be in Ohio, right? So at a great airport where we have good connections and things of that nature. So our travel costs might be less than Nebraska's because of geography, right? And so when you look at recruiting costs, it is, it's a little different. But to your question, it's more about your focus and intent. So we didn't recruit as national as we are. We are recruiting nationally like there's no tomorrow now. I think we'll have 2 guys in California next week, and then from New York to California, so we'll have 3. That never happened before. And so, why? I mean, so to your point, our focus has changed. We're more national. We definitely want to keep Ohio strong. Got to lock it up, but our numbers aren't what they used to be. So it's a different shift. We'll spend the money, to your question, if we have to. But it's talent. You got to have talent, and we're at a level now where, I feel comfortable playing at Clemson or Alabama or whoever, because we have the ability to play them from a talent perspective.
Not to disparage the past, but would that have been the same thing in 2011?
What are you?
Meaning, like, you're comfortable playing Clemson, would you have pause?
I can't remember. I'm too old, man. What the heck? Who was
One
on
or
the
two
team
more
at
questions.
11?
Speaking of that,
Yeah,
though,
you're right.
you guys lost to Clemson, a great Orange Bowl, back in 2013. They've been on a ridiculous ride since then, almost. How impressed are you by what they've done, and what's
phenomenal.
just stood out about it to you?
No, phenomenal. First and foremost, they got great coaches. I mean, and they have support from the institution to do what they need to do. I haven't seen those facilities, but I heard a lot about them, and those facilities are where the players train and feel comfortable. And so, great AD. Dan Radakovich is a good friend. I know he gets it, and he's a football guy. So no, I'm impressed. I like their culture. I like what they stand for, the values they have in their program. They do a great job.
Does Dabo have a legitimate beef that they were kind of overlooked this year from a maybe underrated, whatever you want to call it? You've heard it. You know what I'm talking about. I mean,
I didn't see his rant, but I heard about it, and he's in the game.
Yeah.
He's in the Final Four. So at the end of the day, you gotta play.
What's impressed you about Ryan Day as a motivator, and how does that come into play here in the next?
I think when you look back over each week, and I think he's really done a good job of understanding his team and the individuals of the team and how they think and react. I remember one team we were playing that we were having a conversation, and he said, Gene, I can't lie to them. They see the tape. Right, so you can't get up there and say these guys are world beaters. Oh my God, we gotta So you gotta tell them the truth, and then you have to come up with a different strategy to keep them going. And he's done that excellently. You guys know better than me how many games we had our first teams out in the first half. How do you keep them going? And he's done a great job with that. And so a difficult assignment. I hugged J.K. Dobbins somewhere in the middle of the season and said, look, I'm so proud of you because if you kept playing, you'd already have 2,000 yards. And I'm proud of him and how he accepted what was going on for the team and sacrificed that opportunity. Ryan Day's helped create that culture, and not just with the team, but the individual. You create the behavior with the individual, then you got the culture. Phenomenal job, phenomenal at all levels.
Last big picture question. There obviously have been critiques of the playoff system in the 6 years. What would the situation be right now if we were still in the BCS era?
We'd be playing LSU.
You kind of answered that quickly.
One versus two.
The
Be
way
playing.
pollsters used to vote, with Clemson being the defending national champion, and their reluctance to move people down sometime.
Yeah, that might be true.
I
That
think
might
it could
be
have
true.
gotten hairy. But when did it
That's true.
stunk?
That's true.
When there's 3 teams this good?
Mm-hmm.
The
This
BCS
is
would have been
probably.
terrible.
That's a good question, but let's ask that another way. This is interesting because the CFP doesn't have a lot of history yet, right?
Right.
But however, we might be in that moment. Who's number 5 right now?
Georgia.
Yes, Georgia.
We got any debate?
I knew you were leading to that. I mean, that's, yeah.
I'm trying to think of a year in the CFP.
Oh, where there was
Every
a
year,
debate between
number
4 and
5,
5.
there was a debate.
No, there's no debate this year.
Is this our first time?
maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys, the last 2 years, you know.
This is our first time, so we're developing history. I don't know, that's a great
Yeah.
question about the BCS, but it's interesting. You made me think about this is the first
This is
time
a
that
pretty
we
good
don't
four,
have a
yeah.
debate on the 4.
Right. But a lot of people look at that as just happenstance, you know.
Right.
I mean,
Certainly wasn't 60.
But-
It wasn't.
I mean, it's a change.
Yeah.
I mean, every time you talk about going to 8, you know, in my mind, you're always going to have a beef because number 9's not in.
Right.
This might be our first moment. I don't know what that means. But to your question, you know, BCS, you're right. It's Clemson might
I
be
think
Clemson
there was,
LSU. Who knows?
I'm envisioning a scenario where in the old system, I think it would be possible that you guys would have left out.
Yeah, it's possible.
Because the SEC is the SEC,
Possible.
for
Yeah,
good or for bad.
that's true.
And Clemson's the defending champ,
possible.
and
It's
you
possible.
guys,
Possible.
Which
But
would've
thank God we're in, and my wife just walked out.
We gotta wrap it up. Yeah, thanks.
appreciate it, man.
You gonna do a thing like this on OSU basketball now?
It's crazy that never happened.
I mean,